The Terran vessel's silent runner drifted through the void, its hull deliberately scared and weathered. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing a massive Drachnid cruiser approaching their position. Everything about her ship had been carefully crafted for this moment. From the seemingly inefficient engine emissions to the apparent structural weaknesses in the hull. "Status report," she whispered into her neural link, careful not to move her lips. The ship's internal sensors showed the alien vessel scanning them with increasing interest. "All systems nominal, Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez responded through the encrypted channel. "Our primitive signatures are broadcasting perfectly. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see." The silent runner represented humanity's greatest achievement in military deception. While the Drachnid Empire believed they were detecting a struggling merchant vessel with outdated technology, they were actually observing a state-of-the-art warship wrapped in the perfect camouflage. The alien vessel grew larger on their screens, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so menacing. Intelligence suggested the Drachnids considered themselves the apex of evolution, a species so advanced that they viewed all others as simple primitives to be conquered or enslaved. "They're launching a shuttle," Rodriguez reported. "Looks like they took the bait." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Prepare Welcome Protocol Alpha. Let's show them why humans are the galaxy's greatest improvisers." Throughout the ship, hidden compartments remained sealed, concealing weapons that would have made the Drachnids' most advanced technology look like children's toys. But those weren't humanity's real advantage. Their true strength lay in the minds of the crew, trained to turn any situation, any tool, any seemingly harmless object into a tactical advantage. The alien shuttle approached, its own scans passing harmlessly through the silent runner's deceptive outer layer. Sarah watched as the Drachnids transmitted their standard demands for submission, their message dripping with the arrogance of a species that had never faced true resistance. "All hands," Sarah broadcasted through the neural network, "prepare for Phase 1. Remember your training. Everything is a weapon. Every system is a trap. Show them why humanity survived its own violent history to reach the stars." The Drachnid shuttle extended its docking tubes, attaching to what they believed was a vulnerable merchant vessel. They had no idea they were about to learn humanity's most important lesson. Sometimes the deadliest predator is the one that looks like prey. As the first Drachnid boarding party prepared to breach their airlock, Sarah felt a surge of pride in human ingenuity. The aliens were about to discover that every panel, every corridor, every seemingly primitive system on her ship had been designed with one purpose: to remind the galaxy that technological superiority meant nothing without the creativity to use it. "Let them in," she ordered, her voice steady. "It's time to educate our guests about the true meaning of human innovation." The Drachnid boarding party moved through the airlock with practiced precision, their crystalline armor gleaming under the silent runner's deliberately dim emergency lighting. Squad leader Vexthor led the team, his sensor suite analyzing every surface of what appeared to be a primitive human vessel. "Pathetic," he transmitted to his team. "Their atmospheric regulation systems are using mechanical pumps. I can hear them grinding." What Vexthor didn't realize was that every sound, every temperature variation, every flicker of light had been choreographed. The grinding pumps were actually part of the ship's acoustic warfare system, designed to mask the near-silent operation of its true environmental controls. Captain Chen watched through hidden sensors as the Drachnids moved deeper into her ship. "Begin Protocol Labyrinth," she commanded through the neural network. Throughout the vessel, subtle changes began to take place. The boarding party reached what appeared to be a cargo hold. Vexthor's sensors detected nothing more threatening than storage containers and outdated maintenance equipment. "Secure this area," he ordered. "Prepare for civilian containment." That's when the first trap was sprung. The mechanical ventilation system suddenly reversed, creating localized vacuum pockets that sent 2 Drachnid soldiers tumbling. Before they could recover, sections of the floor plating rotated, revealing modernized gravity projectors that pinned them in place. Ambush. Vex Thor shouted, raising his energy rifle. But the weapon's targeting system couldn't lock onto anything. The walls themselves seemed to be generating interference patterns that made every surface shift and blur. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice echoed through the hold, deliberately distorted to seem like it was coming from everywhere at once. "Welcome aboard the Silent Runner, gentlemen. We hope you're enjoying our hospitality." The Drachnids fired blindly, their advanced energy weapons passing harmlessly through holographic decoys. From hidden compartments, the human crew emerged wearing what looked like simple maintenance suits. But these suits, like everything else on the Silent Runner, were far more than they appeared. Sarah Chen smiled as she watched the confusion spread through the alien ranks. The primitive storage containers began to unfold, revealing themselves as automated defense platforms. The exposed pipes and conduits that the Drachnids had dismissed as crude infrastructure now pulsed with electromagnetic fields that disrupted their armor systems. "Your mistake," Sarah transmitted directly to the Drachnid command ship, "was assuming that simplicity equals weakness. Humanity learned long ago that true advancement isn't about having the most sophisticated technology. It's about using what you have in ways your enemy never expects." The remaining Drachnid soldiers found themselves trapped in a maze of shifting corridors as the Silent Runner's internal geometry reconfigured itself. What had seemed like structural support beams revealed themselves as rails for rapidly moving weapon platforms. The crude hydraulic systems the aliens had mocked transformed into precision targeting mechanisms. Back on the Drachnid cruiser, Commander Zalthar watched in horror as his boarding party's life signs began to fade one by one. His sensors, which had so confidently declared the human vessel primitive, were now detecting energy signatures that shouldn't have been possible with such basic technology. "Impossible," he muttered, his crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. "Their ship is evolving." Indeed, the Silent Runner was revealing its true nature. Every primitive feature had been a carefully crafted deception. The hull plates that had appeared to be simple metal were actually advanced metamaterials capable of absorbing and redirecting energy. The clumsy engine emissions were a mask for a propulsion system that could match any Drachnid vessel. "You see," Sarah continued her transmission, "while you were busy perfecting your energy weapons and force fields, humanity was learning to turn everything into an advantage. Those maintenance suits my crew is wearing. They're actually integrated combat systems that adapt to any situation. The cargo containers you dismissed, quantum-linked weapon platforms, even the air you're breathing has been specially engineered to interfere with your neural networks." The last of Vex Thor's team fell silent as the Silent Runner's crew systematically neutralized them using weapons and tactics that defied Drachnid military doctrine. Not a single shot had been fired from a conventional weapon. Instead, the humans had turned their entire ship into a weapon, using systems and structures the Drachnids had dismissed as primitive to completely overwhelm their advanced technology. As the dust settled, Sarah turned to Rodriguez. "Signal the fleet. Tell them Phase 2 is complete. It's time to show the Drachnids why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to use it in ways they never imagined possible." The Silent Runner's outer hull began to shift, plates realigning to reveal weapon ports that had been perfectly concealed. The inefficient engine array reconfigured itself into a formation that any Drachnid commander would recognize, the attack pattern of an elite human strike vessel. Commander Zalthar could only watch as his supposedly superior forces were outmaneuvered by a species he had dismissed as primitive. In that moment, he realized that the Drachnid Empire had made a fundamental mistake. They had confused technological sophistication with true advancement, and they were about to pay the price for that arrogance. Commander Zalthar's crystalline form vibrated with frequencies of pure terror as he watched the human vessel's transformation. The Silent Runner's deceptively basic hull now rippled with patterns that his sensors couldn't comprehend, revealing weapon systems that had been perfectly concealed within what his crew had dismissed as structural flaws. "Launch all fighters," he ordered, his voice crackling with harmonics of fear. Activate all defensive systems. But Sarah Chen had anticipated this reaction. As the Drachnid fighters emerged from their hangars, the silent runner executed what appeared to be a clumsy, evasive maneuver. The Drachnid pilots, trained to expect predictable tactics from primitive species, fell for the bait completely. Now, Sarah commanded through the neural network. The seemingly random debris that had been floating around the silent runner, pieces that the Drachnids had assumed were evidence of poor maintenance, suddenly activated. Each fragment contained a miniaturized gravity drive, creating a web of localized gravitational fields that caught the Drachnid fighters in a three-dimensional maze. You relied too heavily on your advanced sensors, Sarah transmitted to the increasingly panicked Drachnid commander. Did it never occur to you that sometimes the most effective technology is the kind you can't detect? Throughout the silent runner, the human crew moved with practiced efficiency. Their supposedly primitive maintenance suits now revealed their true nature. Adaptive combat systems that could interface with any part of the ship, turning every corridor and compartment into a potential command center. Lieutenant Rodriguez coordinated the attack from what appeared to be a simple cargo hold. The containers around him unfolded into a tactical operations center, their surfaces displaying real-time battle data. Launching Phase 3 countermeasures, he reported. The silent runner released what looked like standard escape pods. The Drachnids, following their standard protocol for dealing with civilian vessels, automatically targeted their tractor beams on the pods to prevent evacuation. This was exactly what the humans had planned for. The moment the tractor beams engaged, the pods released clouds of engineered microparticles, each one containing a quantum-entangled payload. As the Drachnids' own tractor beams pulled these particles into their ships, they began to interfere with the crystalline technology that the Empire relied upon. Fascinating, isn't it? Sarah's transmission continued, her voice carrying a tone of almost scholarly interest. Your entire civilization is based on crystalline computing, elegant, advanced, and utterly predictable. We humans, on the other hand, never stopped experimenting with alternative technologies. Those particles you're pulling in, they're programmed to resonate at frequencies that disrupt crystalline structures. On the Drachnid cruiser, systems began to fail in cascading patterns. Their advanced neural interfaces, which they had always considered superior to human technology, became unreliable as the engineered particles created interference patterns in their crystalline processors. Signal disrupted. A Drachnid officer reported, their harmonics reaching frequencies of panic. We cannot coordinate our fighter response. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The difference between our species, she broadcast, is that you focused on perfecting the single technological path, while we humans never stopped exploring alternatives. Every failure, every dead end, every seemingly primitive solution taught us something new. The silent runner now moved with its true agility, its hull morphing to optimize its performance for each maneuver. The vessel that had appeared so clumsy and vulnerable now danced through space with lethal grace, systematically dismantling the Drachnid fighter screen. Your greatest weakness, Sarah continued, her voice carrying through the increasingly chaotic Drachnid command channels, is your certainty in your own superiority. You saw our mechanical pumps and assumed primitive technology. You never considered that we might choose to use simpler systems because they're harder to disable, easier to repair, and impossible to hack. Commander Zalthar watched in horror as his mighty cruiser, pride of the Drachnid fleet, was systematically reduced to a floating crystal palace by what he had dismissed as a primitive merchant vessel. His sensors, those that still functioned, detected multiple breaches as human boarding parties used his own tractor beam corridors to infiltrate his ship. The human boarders moved with devastating efficiency, using tactics that defied conventional military doctrine. They didn't rely solely on advanced weapons. Instead, they turned the Drachnid's own technology against them. Every crystalline control panel became a potential weapon as the humans used their understanding of resonance frequencies to shatter command systems. Consider this a lesson in human warfare. Sarah transmitted one final time. We never stopped being the creatures that had to survive on a death world, that had to improvise with limited resources, that had to outthink predators and overcome environmental challenges. We carried those lessons into space with us. Your mistake was thinking that technological advancement meant forgetting our roots. As the last of his bridge systems failed, Commander Zalthar finally understood the true nature of the species he had underestimated. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had maintained their connection to their primitive origins, creating a hybrid approach to warfare that was as unpredictable as it was effective. The silent runner now held his vessel in a web of gravitational fields, its true nature fully revealed. But even now, Zalthar realized he probably wasn't seeing all of its capabilities. The humans had demonstrated that their greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to hide their true strength until the perfect moment to strike. News of the Silent Runner's victory spread through the galactic communication networks at quantum speeds. In the great crystalline chambers of the Drachnid High Council, the recordings of the encounter played on endless loops as military analysts tried to comprehend how their seemingly invincible technology had been so thoroughly defeated. High Admiral Kovacs stood before the council, his crystalline form dulled with stress fractures. "The implications are disturbing," he began. "The humans didn't just defeat one of our most advanced cruisers. They fundamentally challenged every assumption we've made about technological superiority." In the shadows of the chamber, representatives from other species watched with growing interest. The Drachnid Empire had dominated galactic politics for centuries through their advanced crystalline technology. Now, a single human vessel had exposed the fatal flaw in their approach. "These recordings have been authenticated," asked Council Elder Angstra, her crystalline matrix flickering with disbelief. "Multiple times," Kovacs confirmed. "What you're seeing is real. The humans concealed their true capabilities beneath a veneer of primitive technology. But it's not just their deception that concerns us, it's their methodology." The chamber's holographic displays showed footage from the encounter. The council watched as human crew members transformed simple maintenance tools into weapons, used basic engineering principles to overcome advanced shielding, and demonstrated an adaptability that made their true capabilities impossible to predict. "They're not bound by technological orthodoxy," Kovacs continued. "While we focused on perfecting our crystalline systems, the humans continued to explore countless alternative approaches. They've created a technological framework that combines sophisticated innovations with primitive resilience. In orbital stations throughout Drachnid space, military commanders were already ordering changes to their tactical protocols. Ships that once would have confidently approached seemingly primitive vessels now maintained careful distance. But the humans' influence was spreading in more subtle ways as well. On the trading station Nexus 7, a Drachnid merchant watched in fascination as a human engineer repaired a failed crystalline processor using nothing but mechanical tools and basic electronic components. The repair wasn't elegant by Drachnid standards, but it worked, and more importantly, it couldn't be disabled by the same quantum interference that had proven so devastating to pure crystalline systems. "We're receiving reports from across the Empire," another council member reported. "Multiple species are beginning to adopt human engineering principles. They're creating hybrid systems that combine our crystalline technology with more primitive components." The implications weren't lost on the council. For centuries, the Drachnids had maintained their dominance by making other species dependent on their advanced technology. Now, humans were demonstrating that technological advancement didn't have to mean abandoning simpler, more reliable solutions. In a secure chamber deep beneath the council hall, military strategists reviewed the battle footage frame by frame. They watched as the silent runner transformed from a vulnerable merchant vessel into a sophisticated warship, noting how every seemingly primitive feature served multiple functions. "Their entire approach to technology is different," one analyst observed. "We design our systems to be perfect, unitary structures. The humans design theirs to be modular, adaptable, and redundant. If one system fails, they have 3 backup solutions using completely different principles. The ripples of change spread further. On frontier worlds, ships that had once proudly displayed their advanced technology began incorporating elements of human design philosophy. Exposed pipes that could double as defensive systems, simple mechanical backups for crucial components, modular systems that could be rapidly reconfigured. In the diplomatic quarter, representatives from smaller species began quietly reaching out to human ambassadors. They had watched the Drachnid's humiliation with great interest. The possibility of technological advancement that didn't require complete dependence on crystalline systems offered new hope for independence. Sarah Chen, now promoted to Commodore, stood in her office aboard Terran Command Station Delta, reviewing reports of the encounter's aftermath. The Silent Runner's mission had achieved more than just a tactical victory. It had triggered a philosophical shift in how the galaxy viewed technology. The Drachnids still don't fully understand, she told her assembled staff. They think we beat them because we hid advanced technology behind a primitive facade. But that's not it at all. We beat them because we never forgot that technology is just a tool. It's how you use it that matters. Across her desk, reports continued to stream in. The Drachnid Empire's influence was waning as other species began to adopt human engineering principles. The age of pure crystalline technology was ending, replaced by a new paradigm that valued adaptability over perfection. In the great shipyards of Earth, engineers were already incorporating lessons from the encounter into new vessel designs. But they weren't just building more ships like the Silent Runner. They were developing entirely new approaches, knowing that the moment any strategy became predictable, it became vulnerable. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's influence was at the heart of that change. Not because they had superior technology, but because they had never stopped questioning, adapting, and finding new ways to use the tools at their disposal. In the end, that was humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. The reminder that true advancement comes not from having the most sophisticated technology, but from having the wisdom to use it in ways your opponents never expect. 5 years after the Silent Runner incident, the galaxy had changed in ways few could have predicted. In the grand amphitheater of the newly established Galactic Cooperation Summit, representatives from 100 species gathered to discuss the future of interstellar civilization. The Drachnid delegation, once dominant in such gatherings, now sat as equals among their peers. Commodore Sarah Chen, her dress uniform adorned with the medals of both human and alien nations, stood at the podium. Behind her, a holographic display showed the Silent Runner, now a museum piece, but still carrying the scars and modifications from its historic encounter. The lesson we learned that day wasn't about military superiority, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. It was about the danger of believing that any single approach to technology, warfare, or civilization could be perfect. The audience included former adversaries and new allies. Among them sat Commander Zalfar, his crystalline form now incorporating mechanical elements. A living symbol of the hybrid technology was becoming the new standard throughout known space. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't our technology, Sarah continued. It was our perspective. Our history taught us that survival doesn't depend on having the most advanced tools. It depends on understanding how to use whatever tools you have in innovative ways. In the shipyards orbiting distant worlds, this philosophy was already evident. New vessels combined crystalline computing with mechanical redundancies. Hybrid propulsion systems utilized both quantum fields and conventional thrust. Defense systems incorporated both advanced energy shields and simple physical armor. But the changes went deeper than mere technology. The Silent Runner incident had triggered a fundamental shift in how species viewed their place in the galaxy. The Drachnid Empire's gradual transformation from conquerors to collaborators had opened new possibilities for interstellar cooperation. We stand at a crossroads, Sarah declared. The old paradigm of technological supremacy is behind us, Before us lies a future where advancement means more than just developing more sophisticated systems. It means understanding how to integrate all levels of technology effectively. In the years since the encounter, humanity had shared its adaptive engineering principles widely, but always with a warning. The specific tactics used by the silent runner were already obsolete. The true lesson wasn't in the particular strategies employed, but in the mindset that created them. The emergence of new hybrid technologies had led to unexpected benefits. Colonies on harsh worlds found that combining advanced systems with simple mechanical solutions improved their survival rates. Trade ships discovered that maintaining multiple technological approaches made them more resilient against both natural hazards and hostile actions. The silent runner proved that deception and adaptation could overcome superior force, Sarah noted. But more importantly, it proved that true strength lies not in the purity of your technology, but in your ability to use all available resources effectively. Research facilities throughout known space now focused on integrating different technological approaches rather than pursuing a single path of advancement. The rigid hierarchies of pure crystalline technology gave way to more flexible, adaptable systems that could be modified and repaired using multiple methods. In the diplomatic sphere, this technological revolution had profound effects. Species that had once been dismissed as primitive were now recognized as potential sources of innovative solutions. The definition of advanced civilization expanded to include not just technological sophistication, but adaptability and creative problem-solving. The galaxy we're building, Sarah concluded, is one where every technological approach, from the most sophisticated to the most basic, has its place, where strength comes not from imposing a single standard, but from embracing diversity in all its forms. As she finished speaking, the holographic display shifted to show scenes from across known space, ships of hybrid design patrolling peaceful borders, colonies thriving with integrated technology, and research stations where scientists of different species worked together to explore new possibilities. Commander Zalthar approached the podium after the speech. "We thought we were teaching the galaxy about advanced technology," he said, his voice carrying harmonics of hard-won wisdom. "Instead, humanity taught us that true advancement means never stopping learning, never believing you have all the answers." The silent runner incident had indeed changed the galaxy, but not through force of arms or technological superiority. It had changed it by demonstrating that the path to the future wasn't about abandoning the past or imposing a single vision of progress. It was about understanding that every tool, every technology, every approach had value when used with wisdom and creativity. As the summit concluded, delegates returned to their worlds carrying not just new technological principles, but a new understanding of what it meant to be an advanced civilization. The age of singular technological paths was over. The future belonged to those who could adapt, innovate, and see value in every level of technology. And in orbit around Earth, the silent runner remained on display, its scared hull and hybrid systems serving as a reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its technology. It was in its ability to imagine new possibilities and turn every challenge into an opportunity for innovation.